Well, we're starting first at 4 a little bit differently today. Joining us here in studio is Phoenix Police Chief Jeri Williams. Chief, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me. Those images were chilling.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Today we're going to take a deep dive into several issues that many of you have been following here on 12 News, including the ongoing and what appears to be escalating number of attacks on Phoenix police. What is going on? Staffing shortages and attrition within the department, and the uncertain path forward to repairing strained relations between police and the communities they represent. Chief, I want to start with the obvious question, the elephant in the room. You've had 3 ambushes on your officers in the last 4 months. In fact, on February 11th, I was out there with you all. We saw the largest single attack on police in history in Phoenix.
In Phoenix, yes.
Why are your officers under attack?
So the why is still a question for all of us. I will say, at least on the first 2 instances, excluding the one that happened on Saturday, we do know that the individuals involved had previous history of being armed and dangerous, previous history of violence. That's pretty much the commonality right now. But at the end of the day, and I'll say this, I think I said this to you when I saw you out at the scene of the 9, I'm still baffled and amazed by the resiliency that the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department, sworn and civilian, have to continue doing this job in spite of all its challenges.
You said then that this can't become the new normal.
I did.
So how are you addressing those issues, and what do you need to do to still help tackle all of this?
So violent crime is a challenge and a problem. So we're working with many different entities, the ATF, the U.S. Marshal's Office, our partner agencies across the county, and we're really focusing on violent crime because that seems to be what the driver of this is.
The FBI tracks the number of attacks on police all across the country, and that number went up 7% across the country in 2020.
Right.
Meanwhile, in Arizona, specifically, nearly 2,600 officers were assaulted in that year alone. And this region, the Mountain West where we live, has the highest rate in the U.S. for officers assaulted or injured on the job, more than 6 assaults per 100 officers, which is staggering.
Yes.
So what do you think is fueling this increase in violence?
So part of me thinks it's the accessibility of firearms, probably illegally. That remains to be seen. We're drilling down and we're trying to look at all of this. And at the end of the day, though, on the flip side, we want the community to be safe. We want our officers to be safe. And really balancing that scale and that equation has really been challenging for us, but we're not above a challenge.
Is it too easy, do you think, to find these black market firearms both here in Phoenix and nationally? And does something need to be done about that?
So I definitely think something needs to be done about it. The ease of which individuals are able to obtain firearms should be alarming for all of us. I've said this before on previous interviews. We as a country have to figure this out. And it's not just the police figuring it out, it's not the community figuring it out, it's all of us working together with the judicial system.
And of course, all of that while maintaining the constitutional rights of upstanding citizens.
Absolutely.
We know your officers are trained to defend themselves and the communities they serve. And they show up at the worst times in someone's life, events that can turn chaotic and dangerous at any given moment.
Right.
No one expects a police officer not to defend themselves. But every time there's an officer-involved shooting, do you worry that it could lead to more distrust? Does it fuel a fire that's already smoldering across the country?
So I will say, by and large, and I know this in the city of Phoenix, we are grossly supported by our community members. There are some who choose not to want to support law enforcement. At the end of the day, everyone wants to feel safe. At the end of the day, and you actually mentioned it, you're not calling the Phoenix Police Department when you're having a birthday party. You're calling us when you're having the worst day of your life, and in spite of all these challenges and what's happened in our department, men and women still put on this uniform, and they're supported by our civilian staffing also.
But do you think there could be a cause and effect? In other words, police shootings go up, and through social media and all of the ways, people holding their camera phones, all of the ways that people can get this stuff out, and it can be distorted. Is there a cause and effect?
So there's a cause and effect of everything, but to me, my cause and effect is, no matter what happens, what's going on, we're still responding to the calls for service, Mark. My men and women who wear a uniform are still responding to those calls, or taking care of one another. As the leader, it's my job, our job, to make sure they have the tools they need to be safe, the staffing levels that they need to be safe. And fortunately for us, we're seeing an increase in the number of people who are taking the written test to be a police officer.
Chief, I want to show you something, and we'll ask all of our viewers to look at your screens. We're going to show you a crime map. We filtered it to just the last 24 hours, and only violent crime or crimes involving firearms. You can see how active it is. This is just over the last 24 hours. So how does your department tackle a bustling, growing downtown that is almost unrecognizable from just a year ago? It's growing so fast. How does a department with numbers going down instead of up respond to this growing threat?
That is a great question, and one we tackle all the time. So you tackle that by leveraging technology. You tackle it by going to mayor and council and getting the approval to have more body-worn cameras, to have more cameras on the street, to have license plate readers, to help us make all those matches that we would need to have if we had the staffing to do that. So you leverage it with technology, you leverage it by going to your community and saying, look, we need your support, we need your help, we need your assistance.
I want to talk about the numbers in your department. In the last couple of years, you have faced really what seems like a perfect storm. Not only escalating violence, but living through this pandemic, which affected everyone. Right. The Department of Justice investigation, and also facing these staffing shortages. How is that affecting policing and the culture within the department?
So all great questions as usual. When you're a family, when they seem to be at its worst, that's when you get closer. And I will say that for the Phoenix Police Department, in spite of all the challenges and the rhetoric and the noise and the staffing and all the above, we've come together as a family in ways I've not seen us do in a long time. And that was evident, if I may say, by what happened on Sunday morning. The incident where our officer was shot in the arm, the other had the injury with the glass. We saw this entire department come together for one common cause: to put people in custody and to make sure we had justice served for those two officers.
Speaking of the DOJ investigation, which is ongoing, we don't know what's going to happen, but have you been interviewed as part of that probe?
Oh, I have been, and a number of people have. So they have not, the Department of Justice hasn't been able to come on site because of COVID restrictions. We think that with the release and wave of COVID restrictions being released, that they're going to pay visits. As I said before, I'm not afraid of someone coming in looking at our agency. I'm not afraid of another set of eyes. It is what it is, and we're going to provide the information and cooperate.
We talked about the staffing shortages, but it's not just within Phoenix PD. It's really going on from coast to coast.
Yes.
Breaking down the numbers, 247 sworn officers, I believe, left the department in 2021. 71 were hired throughout the year, but 13 of those left the department by the start of 2022. We reached out to some police departments around the valley to take a look at some of the numbers to try to get a better understanding of compensation and if that could be a factor. You can see that Phoenix Police, 50 grand, Tempe, 57.9, Scottsdale, 60. Right. Now, I know the City Council recently approved raises for officers. Is that going to be enough to draw more people into your department?
So I don't think it hurts. I definitely think it helps in our staffing numbers, but as you look across the valley, it's more than just the starting salary. It's the working environment. It's you feeling appreciated as an officer, and we're really working hard to be much, much better at that.
There was a time when if you would ask a kid, myself included, what do you want to be when you grow up? A lot of them would say, I want to be a policeman or a policewoman. Right. Do you still think that's the case?
I have evidence of that. So a young lady, third grader named Trinity, decided during a Black History Month celebration to be me. Didn't know about it until it hit social media, so thank you to my brother for sending it to me. It's evident that people still want to do this job. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that even if you don't want to be a police officer, there's still a place for you at the Phoenix Police Department. You can be a dispatcher, you can be a forensic imaging person, you can be a crime lab person. There's still plenty of opportunities.
If you were to take off your uniform and just talk to me as a woman of color right now, can you relate to the feeling in Black and Hispanic communities, not only here but across the country, that police are not on your side?
So I would not say that that's true for all Black and brown folks in community or communities of color. I engage with people who want to not have police involved. I engage with people who do want to have police involved. And I'm going to go back to what I said before. At the end of the day, everyone wants to feel safe in their communities, and we're one of those spokes in the wheel of safety.
So you don't think that trust has been eroded over the years?
So I would be remiss if I didn't say that it has happened. But I do believe that because of our community connections and because we're willing to take a step back and get better, that more people are willing to talk to us and have conversations with us and invite us, we have people inviting us all over the place now that the COVID restrictions have been released. So I'm very cognizant of that.
You've talked about community policing a lot. Is that how you go about rebuilding that trust in places where it has eroded?
So you go back building that trust all over. You can't just take one snippet of the community to build that trust. It's an all-encompassing, never-ending, 24/7, 365, no matter what your contact is with that community, that contact has to be great.
One of the things that I remember is when we had the Black Lives Matter protests here in Phoenix, you marched with them.
I did.
How much of that was a tactical decision to help rebuild the feelings that the police are not the enemy?
So truth be told, when I was first asked by the group to march, I didn't want it to be about me. It was about the cause, it was about the action, it was about the voice of the community. And at the end of the day, they convinced me to march, because some reforms do need to happen in policing. I would be remiss if I didn't say that we aren't perfect, but we're willing to take a second eye at what we do, constantly learn, constantly evolve, constantly change, in spite of the different challenges that have impacted our department.
Because of staffing shortages, Chief, you have been recently forced to reassign specialized officers back on the street. How has that impacted morale?
So I would be foolish to say that it didn't impact people. I will say that we were much more thoughtful in how we contacted people. We made that contact personal. And at the end of the day, we've extended reinstatement lists, not just 1 year, but 2. But we're also rethinking staffing also. So not every call needs to be answered by a blue suit. We can have a civilian staff member of our department answer some of those calls, and that's going to help the employees who wear the blue suit answer those very violent calls and those priority calls.
Did you make any assurances to those officers who you put back on the street that they will go back to their other jobs, their other specialties, as soon as staffing is back to?
Yes, we did. And so as a department, we're going to collectively look at who can go back and why, with a focus of, if you're a victim of a crime, I have to answer your call for service, I have to have an officer respond, write the report, detective follow-up, and some unit investigate and get the bad guy in custody.
In the age of social media and the court of public opinion, which we all deal with every day, it only takes a few bad actors, a Derek Chauvin or someone in the media spreading misinformation to cause people to make a gross generalization of everyone in that profession. In other words, everyone who wears a uniform is a bad guy. Do you think that's part of the problem because there is so much accessibility to social media?
So I will say social media has definitely caused us to change and rearrange how we push out information and the speed of which we push out information and factual information. It's not going away. So we need to learn how to mitigate it, deal with it, manage it, get out the information as quickly as possible, and we've been successful at doing that.
I can't let you go without asking you about the amazing progress that Officer Moldovan has made and how much that must bolster everyone's spirits in your department.
It absolutely does. And if I want to go back to the shooting that happened on Sunday, everyone's concern was for the officer who was shot in the wrist. And then that transcends to everyone was concerned to what happened with the 9, transcends to everyone is concerned about Tyler. So I do want to send a shout out to the Moldovan family. Thank you for keeping us up to date on what's going on. Because of social media, we're actually able to see what's going on. So our prayers go to the Moldovan family. He has a long road ahead of him. He's resilient, and that speaks to the bloodline of the Phoenix Police Department.
His wife has been doing a tremendous
Amazing.
job, and
Yes.
you know, what a trooper she has been through all of this. Just, you know, it's an overused expression, but she has truly been his rock.
Absolutely.
Through all of this. Chief, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Talking to us today, and we'd love to extend an open invitation to continue these important discussions because so many people are impacted by this.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me.
Chief, good to see you.